Welcome back, GhettoRig, episode number 26. So, guys, I have to tell you, we had a little change of schedule, last minute thing. My buddy couldn't make it, got stuck at work, but he is going to be coming in next week. So, stay tuned for that episode. However, we know you all love Felix, and all we had to
We
do
know
is
Felix loves us.
yeah. All we had to do is send Felix one message, and he responded back like the Ghostbuster, like the Avenger that he is. He was there. He's like, hell yeah, I'll come on a stream. I'll be there to talk. And today, because my buddy's not here, so we don't really have anything planned for you guys. But nonetheless, we do have some stuff planned for you, right? Like we don't just come in empty-handed, right? But yeah. So you guys know Felix. Felix, if you want, just a quick introduction, because I think majority of the viewers know you really well. But just quickly about you, what you do, um, and just whatever you want to say.
I mean, you caught me off guard again. Thank you for the invitation. I really enjoy being here, being part of your show. Um, I'm a true fan. So more than delighted with the invitation. I mean, obviously, it's a pleasure to be here. You can call me anytime. So again, just a little bit of a little introduction about myself. I mean, I don't know what to say honestly. My name is Felix, and I'm sorry, but I'm 40 years old. So
Hey, don't feel bad. I'm gonna be right there with you in 2 months. 2 months.
no,
Me and
man.
Bigger here, like you guys are so old.
Jay, you
mean,
want to
I'm
bring that
a-
down a little bit? It's covering a lot of.
Sure.
I'm an adventurer. I'm pretty much enjoying life every day, and I really
Appreciate it.
enjoy all these topics and stuff. So again, I think you really have good content here every time. So that's the reason. Obviously, I don't need to think it twice to be here. So thank you again.
Appreciate you coming, bro.
So, one thing, because I've always, since I was a little child, right? Like, I always thought about, like, when you're talking and you're saying words, right? Like, for example, table. Who decided to call a table table? Like,
You know,
why
I-
is it at a table?
I must say, I thought about that today on animals. Like, who thought tiger? I just thought, I don't remember what I was looking at, or wolf,
Yeah.
coyote, you know.
Like, there's a reason why it's called that, right? Like, it evolved, right? And finally, I sort of got an answer to my question. So I was listening to this new book, or reading this new book, whatever you want to call it. It's written by Steven Pinker. The name of the book is The Blank Slate. Basically, the premise of the book is, there are two camps. Some people say that, when you're born, you're a blank slate, and then throughout your life, basically, your environment and your parents teach you, and this is where you grow up to be the way you are right now. And then there's a second camp where it says, well, no, not really. They say, well, that plays a role, but there's also biological, genetic predispositions to things, right? And they've actually came by now and proved it, that it is to be true. Like, they've done these experiments with like identical twins, with paternal twins, and things like that anyway. So in this book, he talks about languages. And I didn't know this. So apparently there are two, not groups, but there are two types of languages, and all of the languages fall basically within those two types. The one type is like the Anglo-Saxon type, and the other type is what's called Japanese type. And me studying Spanish, it's like, wait a minute, so how does this whole thing work, right? Like, in Spanish, you know how in English you'll say a word like
It's
grass
like-
is green.
And it's flipped. That's what you're
In
gonna get to.
Spanish, it's flipped, green grass, right? Like, so apparently Japanese is like that. Like,
Yeah,
it's flipped.
Yeah.
And so all of the languages basically revolve around that, right? And he was saying like that the part of like putting words to things made us who we are, meaning like we've evolved to be where we are. um so even the word understanding, like understanding, it's same thing as standing under. You know what I mean? Like, just these things evolved the way they did for us to like be where we are, because you take a chimp, you can raise him in a household, he's never going to learn how to talk. You know what I mean? Like, they'll learn sign language.
Yeah. There's something I think in our brains though that gives us that like the ability to actually like be verbal, have verbal communication in that way, and like develop language in a sense. I think sign language is a little different because just how you can teach it. Like you've seen the videos of how they teach dogs with the buttons. Have you seen that? Like they have these little pads with a bunch of buttons, and the dog will like tell the owner, "I'm hungry," or like "Don't leave," or stuff like this. And it's really cool that they get to not really understand that "don't leave" is don't, and then leave, like these two separate things. So they just understand like that whole sound is a thing that means this other thing. Like how a dog doesn't really understand the word sit as a word. It just said, oh, that sound means I'm supposed to sit.
So what they did, they went back and they're like, you know how children now that, like, you know how you have irregular verbs like run and ran, you know what I mean? It's not rand or runned.
Yeah,
You know what I
think
mean?
of a comedian. I saw this guy was talking shit. He sounds like he's I think he said from Brazil actually. So he speaks Portuguese, but he was talking in English, and he goes, "I don't fucking understand English." He said, so he says, "You dance, I dance, and we all dance, but he dances." Why he dances? Why it's only he, but he have multiple dances. And he's like talking shit like in the most dumb way of English. Like, but he's right. Like the verbs and all the shit don't makes the most sense.
Yeah, so the way he was explaining, so these people like map the ones that are mapping the brain and the ones that are like mapping the entire genetic code. Like before, they thought we have 50 to 100,000 base pairs, but now after everything was sort of right around 35,000. And because they said it's right around 35,000, that's when this whole thing about nature versus nurture, right, came about, where they're like, oh, well, with 35,000 base pairs, you cannot do shit, right? But like, that's why it must be the nature that's basically making you the way, or the nurture that's making you the way you are, right? But anyway, I don't want to get into
Like
it.
in a certain way, I have studied, let's say art of negotiation. That's what I did for a living, like sales, marketing. And like I remember that something that actually caught my attention one time. That was one of my professors said, like even like you start negotiating when the time you're actually born.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you see like babies actually like asking for milk? When they don't know how to talk, they don't know how to interact. They just, they cry. That's their way to negotiate stuff. So again, it's all driven by your environment. The need to like advance and to adapt. Honestly,
Yeah.
adaptation is everything. Like to me, it's remarkable the way that I don't know, like a foreigner goes to this random country, doesn't speak the language, and like in a matter of 3 months, he's already a local. Because
it's like those videos you see of the guys like 3 months after dating a Cuban, or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
after this much time, like all those videos, because they're embedded into that environment. They start adapting.
So what they said is with little babies, like they will say run and then run, but then you correct them like no ran, and like there's your brain starts sending these signals, and you start associating these irregular verbs with, and you start making sense, because like there was this lady that pretty much adopted a chimp, and as she was washing dishes, chimp would watch her, and she taught him how to sign language, say things and whatever, and gave the chimp a plate and a sponge, and chimp would mimic the lady, right? But the plate not necessarily was clean. He would just like mimic the lady, and then the feeling of warm water over his fingers, he liked that. And then she would give him a clean plate, he would still do it without realizing that, like, what's the idea of washing.
Understanding of washing.
Yeah, yeah. So that was kind of cool. With, like, I'm still halfway through the chapter, so it's talking about like languages and things like that. So I was like, oh, finally, I get an answer to why things are named the way they are. You know what I mean? So it's that was kind of cool. But I do want to switch 180 degrees. So Makachev and Volkanovski, they fought, right? And did you see the day later or 2 days later, there were pictures of Makachev with the
I saw that.
IV thing, right?
And then one of his coaches outed him. You know that?
I don't know. I don't know much about it, so go ahead.
Oh, so there's a tweet that his coach, I think it's one of his coaches or one of his teammates, some guy that trains with him. I know this for sure. That came over and was part of his team while they were in Australia. I said came over, like the fight was in the U.S. when they went to Australia to fight, right? And he posted a tweet talking about when people were having these accusations. So it was Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker had 2 tweets talking about how
Yeah.
you thought you could come to Australia and we wouldn't find out. And then he had another tweet just calling him like a cheating bastard or something like that, right? And
It all started with Dan Hooker. I
yeah,
think
Dan
he was
Hooker was I think the first one to go on Twitter and officially like the first person that everybody saw that was like tweeting that he was cheating, right? And said that like they found out because they apparently got a nurse from Australia while they were there. Like they didn't have somebody actual nurse that came with them. Anyways, one of the guys from his team tweeted that it was apparently official because it was overviewed by the UFC and it was within a certain amount of liters and this and that, right? Which first the UFC no longer allows like for example, not the UFC actually, in Australia the Australian Commission doesn't allow IVs, right? Also, the UFC doesn't allow any IVs after the weigh-ins, right? From my knowledge, right? This is what I've all seen. So after that happened, everybody was like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about? Did he really like just go and say this?" And then he took the tweet down. It's not there anymore. Apparently, after that, the UFC launched an official investigation, and I haven't seen anything since.
Okay, because to me, because I know they can do the IVs if there's like if the doctor says he needs a fucking IV, because it's like for the health is bad. Like it has to be
medically necessary.
But at that point, I think they can't fight because it's no longer allowed. Because it's like, for example, Hamza had to stop. Didn't get to the whole thing that happened when he was supposed to fight Nate Diaz. Right, they were supposed to fight at 170 pounds. You had on that same card, you had Kevin Holland.
But he didn't make weight, right?
Yeah, got you. Yeah, so I'm gonna explain. He on that same card, you had Kevin Holland and another guy fighting this Asian guy. I can't remember his name. They were fighting at 180, which is not an official weight. They were calling it a cruiserweight bout, right? And Hamza couldn't make weight because the doctor told him to stop making weight. I think that if the doctor says, "Oh, you can't keep making weight," like take an IV, like that's not, like that's the same kind of thing. Like he could have technically made the weight and then took an IV to recover, and that the doctor would be like, "Okay, that's okay." But since he's not allowed to do that, the doctor said, "Okay, you can't." That's what I would assume would also happen now. Like you can't take an IV. They said even if the doctor's saying you need it, okay, you might need it, but if you take it, you're not gonna be able to fight.
So apparently, Joe, when he was talking to Masvidal, Joe Rogan, he said that, there's some things that needed to be done, but UFC went overboard with their rules. You know what I mean?
Sorry, and I think I'm wrong. So I think he can take the weight. He can take the IV while he's cutting weight. Yes.
Yeah, you cannot take afterwards.
After. But if he takes an IV while he's cutting weight, he defeats the purpose of him cutting weight, and he's gonna gain weight. And
so I'm gonna tell you something. Recently I saw online this YouTuber. It's actually the biggest YouTuber in DR. Actually, has a big platform there. And they obviously they brought the. I mean, it was right after now that I'm seeing you with the Dominican baseball classics.
The WBC that just happened. Yeah.
So
happening, I think. I don't know.
What?
I don't know if it's still happening.
No. Actually, Japan won.
Yeah.
So this is
Japan won.
Japan
against United States against all.
Again,
nice.
United States. That was the final. So yeah, like Japan won.
I saw the last
their third World Classic title. So they're undisputable, like the leaders on it. Because I think
nice.
DR has won. I think US has won as well. Japan has 3. So the bottom story is, right after the Classic, like one of the most anticipated games was actually, Puerto Rico against Dominican Republic, right?
Yeah.
This big game, and undebatably, Dominican Republic had the best team for the tournament, and they not even make it to the finals, So, and particularly they lost the first game to Venezuela, which is what was a surprise. Actually, Venezuela was playing very well. But the game that everybody wanted to see was actually Puerto Rico against Dominican Republic. So, yeah, Puerto Rico ended up winning that game. It was a surprise to a lot of people. But to connect my story here, there was a big debate in one of the biggest platform DR. So like who's better? Puerto Rican players or Dominican players. So trying to bring everything in a brief summary, obviously they went to the part of the juices, right? S- Steroids, right? Because in a certain way they have stained um, some players. Look like in the past, you got Sammy Sosa, you got people like A Rod, for example. Like A Rod hasn't been admitted to the Cooperstown Hall of Fame because of that, and the guy has the numbers. So the thing is that there was a Luis Polonia, which was a great baseball player for the Dominican Republic. Actually, he was en route as well, like to be like part of the Hall of Fame, I believe. But he got caught, like cheating the system. So they were saying like, and they were like, yeah, because your baseball players, there was like the Puerto Ricans versus Dominicans, like the best, um, sports commentators from the DR and from Puerto Rico, like with stats and facts and everything, and I had the average and here and there, blah blah. So it was like, oh yeah, because yours and well yours, whatever. So Luis Polonia, was like, yeah, because your people are like, they do a lot of juice, they look at asteroids and stuff like that. I was like, listen, do you think just by you taking asteroids, you're gonna be a best player? So just go ahead, go ahead and you get asteroids and get in the middle of the field and start playing. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Yes, this is enhancement, performance enhancer. Like anyways, and yes, probably you're gonna be able to punch a little bit harder. But again, I don't think it actually makes a big difference, like one or the other. Actually, the one situation is they want everybody to be under the same conditions.
So
And if you talked about IB, it's just technically for you to hydrate yourself based on the extreme conditions and situations. Because a lot of people, they just don't know what's the process of you cutting weight. This involves people like really deeply, into sauna and then like cold plunges and then saunas again and then cold plunges again and running and all this like wearing a sauna suit inside a sauna, so it's like absolutely crazy. People dropping literally 30 pounds in less than 48 hours, bro. 30 pounds in less than 48 hours.
So you're trying to say then that it's not a unfair advantage if we drop 30 pounds together and then the next day we go to fight and you get IV and I don't? That is an unfair advantage.
Well, it is. It has to be.
You're on the brink of death, and then I was like, "Here's extra juice, real quick."
It has to be permitted. I mean, for not permitted, obviously. But what I'm saying is, like, and this is like perhaps a little bit ambiguous, but you're fighting in a category, in a certain division. Like, why are you dropping 30 pounds to be in that division?
Well, that's how.
That's what I was gonna say.
If you're gonna take an IV like the next day and just trick the system, so might as well just go ahead and fucking trick the system like from scratch, from the beginning.
Because the majority of fighters want to have that try to have that weight advantage in a sense, because you have some fighters that don't really drop a lot of weight. Like for example, Israel, he
doesn't drop weight.
He doesn't.
It was eating a damn pizza, bro, when it was going up in the weight category.
Again, that shouldn't be an issue.
It was Stipe, right?
Like
then you have Hamza
3 days before a fight, you have a fighter, more than 10, 15 pounds like over the weight. Perhaps there should be a threshold, a limit for that.
So Joe Rogan has talked about this a lot. He thinks that there should be like they should try and use the same, not same system, but kind of what they're trying to do in one championship, which is where they have a hydration thing where they be testing you every so often, and they test you before you weigh in and all these things to make sure you're not dehydrating yourself too much. And they have like this certain like threshold you can hit, of course. And so that's why they want people to, that's trying to get people to fight at their natural weight. But then there's still people trying to go against the system. And like the other day, I guess they had a card that was missing 9 people. But again, because they couldn't make weight.
Yeah, I don't think that's like fair at all. Like if you wanna fight, and again, and because I've competed in like jiu-jitsu it's a sport that you compete.
Same shit.
I think it's just the same shit, but I think it's the like one of the most fair sports, in a certain way. Because I remember my brother, for example, like in judo competitions, and I remember like brown belts like fighting, like yellow belts, for example, right? Just because they're on the same division, like weight division and age.
Yeah.
So in jiu-jitsu, you fight, same, not same age, but it's like, like 5 year difference, but same belt, same weight category, technically same age. So it's pretty much, I'm paired.
Even yeah.
But again, like,
They talk about how it's sanctioned cheating, like basically when the whole thing with the UFC going on.
but that's the thing, like those kind of fighters, trust me, if you have 5 pounds more than I do, these fighters, they can feel it on those punches. Those 5 pounds, they make a difference.
And
No,
so
no, it's
Talking
obvious.
about dropping weight, there's a special case, Patty Pimlet.
yeah, and then you also I mean, we have we're talking about Islam, Khabib. These guys are dropping a lot of weight. They should be welterweights. You know, it's yeah. So like the last year of the UFC, there has been way too many of those like catch weight bouts, like he's talking about, or canceled fights because people can't make weight. Like that's why they have the Dana White talked about it. That's why they've been having backups. Like just now for the Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards, that's why Kobe Covington was there. He weighed in. He weighed in at 170 pounds to be able to fight if something happened. And they've been doing that for all the like big main events and stuff like that. They've been having backups for that reason.
So that's just insane. Like,
So to me, here's the thing, and we talked about this before, on a pod. I think we've talked about this on a pod. Now, coming from Lithuania, and there was a point in time in Lithuania when I was growing up where drugs were a big thing, right? Like a lot of people were drug addicts, and obviously, it goes as bad as here, shooting heroin and things like that, like shooting up heroin. When they start shooting up heroin, they literally start burning their veins. So after a while, they cannot use the vein, let's say in their arm, to shoot up heroin again, right? So it literally burns the vein in a person's body. So what they do, they find, yeah, they find different veins, right?
Like a vet?
Yeah. So they find different veins, right? So I've heard people shooting up in their groin, shooting up between their toes, between their fingers. So to me, if they were going to hide it, right? If they were going to hide it, why wouldn't they just IV him in a groin? Nobody would be able to see that. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
like, I mean, these guys are not idiots.
yeah, I
you know?
guess you're right. Like, why are you making it so obvious if you're actually, like tricking the system and having this,
So there's another part of this is right,
Yeah, in
like
the background.
when you eat food or you drink water, everything gets taken into your body from your stomach into the the small intestine, and then you know what I mean. That small intestine is what takes everything in, right? So when the kids are young, when they're little, they give them suppositories. The reason why, because they can't just find the vein and then poke the veins in the little tiny newborn's arm, right? Like this, or so they give them suppositories. So like they can run the same liquids as suppositories, you know what I mean? And no one would ever be able to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
'Cause
what they
direct
should
to
do,
your to your small intestine.
what they should do is I've listened to Joe talk about it a lot. I think his viewpoint is pretty valid at this point. They should make more weight divisions and put in the whole thing of like making sure this person is staying hydrated. No more weight cutting. Try and eliminate that in the mostly possible. Not only did they do it in one championship, that's kind of new, but they've done that. They do that in college wrestling. I don't know exactly how they do it in college wrestling, but they he's mentioned how they regulate hydration and like weight cutting and stuff like that in college wrestling, and that's been for a long time. So I'm sure they have a way to do it correctly, and they need to make more weight classes. So for example, 155 to
I-
170, they should be having a 155, 165, 175, 185 like they have.
Go to every 5 pounds if you have to. Every
Not
5
necessarily
pounds.
5 pounds, but every 10 pounds. So like there's a lot of guys that are stuck in that middle between 155 and 170 that maybe shouldn't be fighting at 155, cutting way too much weight. You know, don't have the, I guess you can say like, they're too big for 155, but then they're too small for 170, and so like they should be fighting 165, but there's nowhere for them to fight. So they should make it a lot wider. They'll have more champions, you know, more chances for double champions. You know, it's more promotion, stuff like that. I don't understand why not.
Yeah,
And he was talking about how they should get rid of the whole, like how they adopted the whole like lightweight and welterweight, that it should just be the 165 champion, the 155 champion, the welterweight and lightweight and light heavyweight and heavyweight. All that is, he said that's bullshit.
It is. It is bullshit. Well, to me, is this, you know, I mean, okay, they made weight, right? Fine, they made weight. Now they want to rehydrate. Fine. Bring them to your own official area, doctor, whatever.
So I think
sit
that's
them down
allowed.
and rehydrate them.
I think that what you're talking about is allowed in certain like states. So certain commissions will allow that, but in Australia it's not allowed.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
like
So,
for that one situation, they
if you're
weren't
gonna
supposed
do
to.
that, right? Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
do that, you need to make the sport unified. So when you're making the sport not
Yeah.
unified, you have to follow this guy's
Yeah,
rules and
and
that guy's
It's-
rules, and
and you have in cases where certain guys don't want to fight in certain states because the commissions are really annoying and this and that and all that bullshit, and so you're kind of like have guys that are nitpicky, like, oh, I don't want to fight there. No, I don't want to be there for that promotion because that commission's annoying as fuck, or you know, and yeah, it scatters the rules too much.
yeah, it just makes no sense because UFC is UFC.
Yep.
I don't understand like commissions in Australia, commissions there,
Yeah.
bruh. It's UFC. What are you talking about commissions?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like everybody's like trying to watch out for the fighters, you know, integrity and health. You know, like cutting a massive amount of weight.
Super rad.
It's super like risky for the organization. It's like, you know, very it's dangerous, man. You know.
So
like,
in the-
it hurts your kidneys like big time. Like a lot of like health consequences like after that. So why go the whole 9 yards like for that? Like yeah, like I'm definitely. I do agree with you. There should be, you know, like closer weights and just avoid that shit. That way, like people trying to like trick the system every time gets, you know, a little bit like more difficult, like to call it that way.
And he
plus
was talking with he was talking with Masvidal. He just had that interview with him yesterday, and I was listening to it. And Jorge Masvidal used to fight. You know, he's 170, right? He used to fight 155 in certain time, and he talked about. He's like, dude, like, I definitely could not be doing that at this age. Fuck that. Like he's 38 now, still fighting, and he's like, I could not go to 155 anymore.
His
No.
body physically can't do it. After cutting the weight every time you cut weight, it becomes harder to cut weight the next time, right?
He carved you too much.
Yo, I saw that. I saw the whole
card
card. Yo, so the guy, he's like, it was funny 'cause the match I watched.
So let me tell you a story. You know, what I like my first time. You know, when I this is what hooked me up like to train jiu-jitsu. You know, I was doing traditional jiu-jitsu. I told you guys that, you know, for, you know, like a long time, you know, and I started training Brazilian jiu-jitsu in 2002. You know, part ways in a certain time of my years due to like, you know, situations. So I had a couple of friends that, you know, there were two friends actually, and they started training BJJ, you know, and I was like, nobody knew. It was like something they had like hidden. Like, oh yeah, and we're going to a tournament, like, you know, to Miami. I was like, what the hell, bro? Like, you're one of my like closest friends, and you've been hiding this shit from me, man. You know. So the guy was training for like 6-7 months. So they told like the you know, the closest friends like, oh, we're going there. Like, no, like, bro, we're going to Miami, you know. So F it, we're going to Miami. Let's go there. So we went there like just to cheer them up, like for the tournament. At that point, I was like weighing like 195 pounds or so, and when I went to the competition, I was like, "Fuck, man! I got like hooked by the energy and the level and the excitement and everything. Yeah, I definitely want to do this, So I told my first professor at that point. I told him like, "Listen, I'm gonna be here next year, and I'm gonna be competing in the same tournament, you know. So you'll see, and you're gonna see me on the podium as well." So I went back, right? I went again, like pay my fee, inscription, everything. And there was this like purple belt at that point, and I was like, and I asked him like, "Listen, I came here, I'm starting here, and I want to compete. I'm fully committed. What do I need to do?" So the guy sees me, and he's like, "Bro, I can see you're not like very muscular or anything." So I strongly suggest if you really want to fight, for you to fight in lightweight division. I was like, okay. So and what's lightweight division? Oh, it's the top is the maximum weight is 168. And I was like, oh, well, I was again 195, 194.
Yeah. 30 pounds. Like,
I was like
shit.
168. Oh yeah, and by the way, that's with the gi on, like with the
Oh, shit.
So that the gi is like like
3 to 5
like
pounds.
5 pounds. So it's like, so you're telling me I need to drop to 162?
Yeah, 160.
Because at least I'm gonna be able to like drink water. And stuff,
Yeah.
So I had a full year for that, and yes, I did cut weight until that, and I went to the tournament like the next year, and I did got into the podium, like So it was like a full commitment for one, like damn year. But I lost. I ended up like weighing on 162.5 pounds. So the day of the fight with the gi on and everything, I was weighing 157 with the gi on, and I was like, and I remember my wife saying like, "Oh my God, you look disgusting," I was looking like a mummy, I was like, oh, I had like like I have no sexual interest in you whatsoever. Like, you look so skinny, man. I was like, okay, this is a big problem. So let's go back and weigh again.
Yeah.
But again, like it was a huge commitment and an entire year, and even though it was an entire year, it was a sacrifice. So like every time I think about these people like losing 30 pounds in 48 hours, that's just to kill yourself, man. There are definitely like consequences for that, like long term. So definitely they need to do something about it and make it more like a fair game, or
They were talking about how Alex Pereira walks around at 40 pounds heavier than 185. 40 pounds he be gaining. Like, that's how he kind of walks around and is whatever.
No,
and
I get
weight.
I
I mean,
get-
I'm assuming he doesn't cut 40 pounds, right? Like within 48 hours, right? So like during camp, he probably gets down to 210 probably, and then cuts the rest of the weight, like the other 20-25 pounds. He
I
cuts
think
it.
everybody should be able to do what DC Cormier did once with the towel. Remember that?
With what?
With the towel? No,
What is it? What do you mean?
Oh,
you saw that? So yeah.
they were holding the towel.
So the guy was
tight.
like, up in weight, like I think it was like half a pound, 1 pound. I don't remember how much, So
Oh yeah.
he ended up like in the
Grabbed it.
weigh-in. So I was like, oh no, like he's like overweight. So he went like back and came back like in half an hour. The same. He didn't do a shit, nothing, So they put him there like to wait again, and he had like one of his. He was like being like the waiting was naked and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he had like one of his teammates, coaches, whatever, on one side and one on the other side, and they were holding the towel like for him to cover himself.
Yeah.
But they were holding like
Tight.
So he ended up like pushing himself a little bit like just to
I
show
know.
a couple of like pounds like
I
less.
know what you're talking about. They
And
have
he
that.
did weigh weight. It was
Yeah.
like like super ridiculous, man. But it worked for him.
But see, like, no, I get like 10, 15 pounds. That's normal. See, this is the issue, because just like you said, they lose weight before the camp, and then they lose more weight after the camp. So they know they can lose some weight before the
Well,
camp.
My question is, why have weight cutting in general? Like, why have to lose 10 pounds?
Why do you lose 10 pounds?
Yeah, why
Because-
why have to? Why have to?
I mean, I can
Like,
I can understand the concept. Like regardless, if you're a pro competitor, in whatever sport. I mean, not whatever sport, 'cause, like, it doesn't apply to all the sports. But if you're like a competitor in the majority of the sports, I mean, you're supposedly to be training 100% at all times
Mm-hmm.
because you're really into the sport and this is what it is. But I'm guessing these guys is like, okay, I fought today. My next fight is like in 8 months from now. Like effing, man. I'm just gonna go and eat pizza and beer and drink and cocaine and blah blah,
So
and then repeat and repeat and
Pizza,
repeat
beer, and cocaine.
and repeat and
John
repeat.
Jones.
So it gets to a point that obviously they're not gonna be, like fully optimal, in terms of.
I get
weight.
that. I get that. No, but I
No,
want
So
The best
they're
way-
used to be fighting in that same weight division, and they like.
What I mean is
a couple of
that-
months down the road, it went to that way.
you have an eight-week training camp
So,
or whatever,
hear
and
me out.
but you've been training like normal for 6 months before that. But then the training camp is like heavy or whatever. You still have these guys that after that 8-week training camp, they're like, oh, the last 4 days I'm gonna be sitting in the sauna and just losing weight. Like, fuck, man, why?
So who? I got a question. Who wins the Boston Marathon usually?
I don't keep track of that.
Not who, not people's names, but like, what is their body composition? People that win the Boston Marathon, what does their body composition look like?
Super
Very
skinny.
Super
Yeah.
skinny, right?
Yeah, usually people
Super
from like Kenya,
Kenya,
stuff like that.
Yeah. So who wins 100-meter relays? What do those guys look like?
Thin is what, like,
No, 100-meter relay
yeah,
guys.
really,
Jacked, right?
yeah.
The reason it's like that is because when you're running those long distances, your body starts burning muscle. So I think this is what's happening. These guys, because they're practicing 2-3 times a day, they're wasting a lot of energy, and that's actually burning their muscles, right? So what they want to do during cutting, what you're doing, you're extracting water, but you're not burning muscle. So I think that's what's happening. They want to retain the amount of muscle that they have, because when you is it possible to lose weight and gain muscle at the same time?
There's
It's
no
possible.
benefit to cutting weight.
No, it's possible to do that, but it is very, very hard. So the best way to do it is what bodybuilders do, what Ronald does. He's off season, on season. On off season, he's putting on muscle, and then he dehydrates himself to keep that muscle and not lose it, right? Because I think that's what's happening. So if they start naturally losing the weight throughout the year, they're gonna lose the muscle. They're gonna burn through muscle. So what they're doing, that's what they're doing last couple of months. So it's not burning as much muscle, but they're actually just getting rid of the excess water. That's what they're
so
doing.
really, really think about it. Let's say for UFC, as you say, like, okay, I'm overweight, and the last 4 or 5 days of before the fight, they start like cutting the weight and just getting to the weight they need, whatever, like in order for them to fight or compete. So the thing is, like, and you've seen it. Let's say you're doing jiu-jitsu, right? Let's say you're training 6 months in a certain like weight level, weight, a certain
Category
weight.
class.
Yeah.
Like, you're used to using your weight,
Yes.
like, for that. The
Yes.
moment, like 4 days later, you have 20 pounds less. You don't. I mean, it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah. And you're it's not that like, you're sucking the water out of your muscles and all this stuff, and so you're effectively dehydrated. I mean, it's not the same like if when we go to jiu-jitsu on Sundays, like if I make sure on Saturday I didn't drink any water and I go to jiu-jitsu the next day, I'm not gonna fucking do shit for 5 minutes. I'm gonna be like shit.
I feel like it's almost like a car. Like, you put gasoline, you fill up the car, you're going, you run smooth. You don't have to, stop for a long time.
These guys
Like,
are
you put less
almost-
gas, you're lighter, right? But you don't have that much gas.
No, well, see, this is what happened, because I can tell from my own experience. When I first started jiu-jitsu, I was 225. And then I went down all the way to 175, and now I'm back at about 185, 190, right? I fluctuate up and down. So I can tell you, when I was at 225, at that time I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was heavy. So it was difficult for people to move me around and do stuff. When I went back to 175, I was faster, but I didn't have as much power behind because I wasn't throwing my weight around. So some of these bigger guys, like, there's no way I could move them. Before I could, now I can't. Now I know more, and I can't move them as easily. Now and I can notice that, when I gain a little bit of more weight, I become slower, but I'm much more dominant as far as like throwing my weight around. When I have less weight, I'm much faster,
Yeah.
but I'm not as strong. So you are burning through. So you are burning through muscle per se, right? Like, but in reality, like, it's like 10 pounds is like a whole weight class. You know what I mean? You feel it. You feel it in any competitions. I think that matters. But to me, it would be just like, put those, just dehydrate those guys under supervision of a doctor or nurse. Test the liquids. Bring them in. I mean,
But there shouldn't be no reason for them to get dehydrated in the first place, is what we're trying to discuss. Like the whole rehydrating them under supervision, I get that, but that's like with the current standing of like what is going on right now, like how the current setup is, and what we're all saying is we can agree that it's not right that they should have to cut weight in the first place. If they can make more categories and implement a hydration system where it's not like, well, we're controlling your rehydrating. We're controlling that you stay hydrated during this whole process, that you don't be dehydrating just to make weight. And that'll help force these guys to say that oh well, I walk around at 180, 185, but I want to fight 170. Well, maybe you can, but you need to make sure that you can stay hydrated at 170 and weigh in correctly.
So, for example, let's say I want to become a MMA fighter. I'm not a tall guy, right? So I have to be in those very, very low weight categories, right? I have to. There's no way around it. Let's say I'm semi-decent. I have a chance to win in those lower categories. Now, if we do that, I can't compete if I'm coming in at 160, 170, right? Where I should really be fighting at 135, 140, right? Yep. So that's, I think what happens is like, because you, no matter how you chuck it, it's talent, right? Like you have to have the talent, and then there's dedication to it, right? Like to become great at it. So you can have the talent, you can have the dedication, but you just can't, like your weight doesn't permit you to be in that weight category, right? You put me with somebody that's like 6'2", no matter how much talent I have, like you take Volkanovski and put him with what's his name at 200, which that's where he was back in the day when he was playing rugby, 215. You put him at that weight category. I don't know how that fight's gonna finish. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. You're talking like you take Volkanovski and you put him against Yuri Prohaska, like
you know what I'm saying?
You're just gonna slam him.
Like Stipe Miocic, you know what I mean? Like the length of the arm, the length of the leg, like those guys. Literally, Volkanovski can kick all he wants. He still won't touch him, and he'll be able to punch him right in the face. You know what I mean? Not even kick him, just punch him.
I forgot who it was though that said. I saw a post that said someone talking shit about how they were like when Islam won, they were like, oh yeah, he showed why there's weight classes, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. we saw a pretty like back and forth fight that day. We were all agreed with that. It wasn't like even if you agree that Islam won or Volkanovski won, the other person didn't run the other person over. What I mean?
But see, like, the thing is, those both guys, I mean, we can sit here and talk all we want, but both Volkanovski and Islam, they're at about the same weight when they're not cutting. They're about the same weight.
No, I think Islam's bigger than Volkanovski.
Even if he's bigger by 10, 15 pounds, what's the difference? You know what I mean? There's still...
That's a difference, bro. I mean, that you're talking 155 to 170.
Yeah, but I don't think Volkanovski is at 170 at all times. I mean, he was at 215. Like, you can't just change your natural...
I wouldn't doubt that Volk probably walks around at
180, 190.
No, I would say 170, and Islam's probably walk around at 190.
Hey, actually, Miggy, pull up at what they walk around at. I mean, that'll give it, because Islam is at what? Islam is about 5'10". Volkanovski is about 5'6". You know what I mean?
Sure
there's a decent height advantage there. There's decent reach advantage there with legs and arms. You know what I mean? So I think it's just the body types as well. So I don't know, man. Like it would be a shame. Like Volkanovski is a great fighter, but if he's not allowed to cut weight, he's coming in at 170. Even let's say if he works on 175,
170. Volkanovski.
Okay, so if he's coming in at 170, so is he supposed to fight somebody like Usman? You know what I mean? Where Usman is just, that's like, yeah, he does cut, but like he naturally is pretty ripped.
Islam walks around at about a 190. I told you, my friend. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Look at Usman. Usman walks around
probably like 200
pretty cut, because Usman is a pretty cut guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just naturally. So you take Volkanovski, he's gonna be in the same.
I love his interview after hearing him talk about how he had a plan that after beating Leon Edwards, he wanted to move up to light heavyweight and beat Yuri. and then defend with Jan and go back down to once and then go back to 170. And then Joe Rogan's like, you forgot there's a 185-pound division. You just like skipped over. He's like, well, Israel's there, and so this and that because that's my boy. This and that, and then you have Mirab. Mirab just beat Peter Yan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how he won't challenge Aljamain because they're partners. They're training partners.
Everybody takes weight for granted. Like AC was undisputable, like the best, in his division.
And then he went up, and
then he went up. He got really outbeaten, like a little baby, Looked really bad.
He even
He
said
wasn't a little baby. He did put us on fight, but you could tell who won
But
that
he
fight.
even said in the at the end of the fight, you hear him say, "Oh, you made me look like a butter guard." Because like how you just had control over me, and Jan didn't understand him and said, "Oh, how much you paying?" Because he goes, "What?" And he goes, "Oh, I thought you said bodyguard." He goes, "No, it made you look like a butter guard because you had me like controlled." And that fight was a good example of like and not that I'm saying that I don't think Izzy couldn't have won that fight, but
and the same
it was
thing
a good
with,
example of weight class.
The same thing with Connor.
Yeah.
He
went down
he
to
was
45,
riding his
right?
division, whatever. Okay, yeah, like I'm gonna fight, Nate Diaz now. Big mistake,
Well, then he came back and beat Nate.
Yeah, but
Next
then
fight.
he also has gone down to 145. Connor has gone down.
So he was a 2 division champ. So you had him fighting at 155, right? He beat who was it for the champ at 155? I know he beat 145 was Aldo.
Yeah, Jose Aldo.
Aldo, that 13-second left hook, bah! It was a huh? What? Because everybody was expecting Aldo to win that fight,
No, not really, man. I had
if you go back and
I
you
had
look
that
at
discussion
that time,
with you guys
Yeah,
here.
you
know, when it comes to trash talking, and I told you guys that day, like Connor is the best out there, and Jose Aldo before stepping on that octagon, the guy, everybody knew he was gonna lose that fight. Connor got into his head. He was shedding in his pants before he even got on the octagon.
I have seen plenty of videos of MMA champions talking about how they assumed Jose Aldo was gonna win that fight.
Bro, because he had the numbers, but again,
so
when a person goes into your head, and this is how
not everybody saw that scaredness. Not everybody thought that was a thing. They were just that's calm Aldo. That's what they were seeing.
What was the Czech guy? He wasn't fighting UFC. He was fighting in the Square Pride in Pride. He was fighting in Pride. What was his name?
No idea.
He was from Czech Republic. And he fought that Brazilian dude, the Brazilian guy. Like he was, they called him an axe something or another.
Oh, you talking about Wanderlei Silva?
Wanderlei Silva
and,
against the Czech guy. You know what I'm talking about? So
tip of my tongue.
I saw a thing about Joe talking about it. So apparently, Wanderlei Silva, when he would get in a ring, everybody was afraid of him. He was just like a Tasmanian devil. He's just crazy. Looks mean. He looks scary.
He looks a little fucked up.
A little fucked up. And he gets in a ring, and they're doing that face-off in a ring, right? So, and the Czech guy just looks at him, and you can tell Wanderlei Silva, right then and there, you could tell Wanderlei Silva was shitting his pants. So apparently, the Czech guy was part of the SWAT team, and this motherfucker was a certified killer.
Yeah, I can't.
He has deleted people, right? And he goes, when somebody like that comes in, when you're fighting for the sport, you know what I mean, and you're winning in the sport, but when you get in front of someone that's has deleted people in his life, he goes, it's a little bit different,
No. You're not talking about Crow Cop.
Crow Cop.
Talking about
Crow Cop. Crow Cop. Crow Cop used to be part of the Czech.
Mirko
Crow Cop. He used to be part of the SWAT unit, and that was his job on a daily basis. Go out there and bring in all the mafia gangsters. You know what I mean? So, and there's that one. So there's that one where he just stares down at Wanderlei Silva, and you could tell, man, Juan de la Silva was like, oh shit, I've met my match. You know what I mean? Like you can see it in his face. But hey, does Miggy have the videos up? He does.
Play. Goddamn.
Goddamn.
Can you pull this up so I can tell him which one?
Yeah, there we go. He was on part of the anti-terrorist unit. There we go.
Father, stay around. Is it Father, stay around?
Are you sharing the screen? I don't think we share.
I'm not sharing. Oh, it's not showing up there?
It's
Can you
not,
make sure it's duplicating?
it's not on at all.
That's what I'll do.
The screen is not on. I don't think so.
Yeah, can you click the button?
There we go.
There we go. Okay, no, it's good. Go to the thing. No, go back. No, that one.
Yeah,
You
so
want
he
me to-
was part of
you
the
want me to take this one?
anti-terrorist unit,
No, not that one.
and he was a good fighter. And then you know who was my all-time favorite fighter? Fedor Emelianenko, because he was this chubby guy that would get in a ring, never cut
play
weight,
that.
and would just
Let me
destroy
show you,
people.
yeah.
You
I
know?
can't hear you.
I never saw that guy
Yes,
smiling.
one, the third
Never.
one down that you're on right
Always
now.
his straight fight, and yes, like I think it was like chubby, not built up and anything. He just went in straight for the kill. He got a lot of beatings, but he kept on going, and he literally killed a lot.
And he
of
had a
people.
very unorthodox way
Yes,
of
you can't hear
fighting
it.
too. You know what I mean?
We can't hear it.
He had
No,
a very,
it's because it's probably muted on Instagram right there.
Oh, I paused it.
yeah. So he had a very unorthodox way of fighting too. You know what I mean? So
You gotta do something. You ever meet somebody that don't do nothing? You
Yeah.
ever meet somebody that don't do nothing?
Uh-huh.
They don't do nothing. They don't date. They don't do drugs. They don't play checkers. They don't do nothing. How long do you like those people for? You don't. I like people with a little bit of edge to them. They gotta do something. If you tell me I don't like alcoholics, but I love heroin, I'm in. If you tell me you suck toes for breakfast, I'm in. You gotta do. What worked to me is you gotta do something.
I don't
You ever
trust
meet somebody that
anybody
don't
who's
do
like, Too
nothing?
innocent.
You ever meet somebody that don't do nothing?
Like,
They don't do
literally, like, when
nothing.
he says
They
that,
don't date. They don't do drugs. They don't play checkers.
I can think of like meeting people before and being like, "Damn, you're too good, like too good with like a goody two shoes." And then when you finally see them do something like one of their like random vices, for me it's kind of like, "Oh, okay, you're good now." Like,
Random
there's something I guess you could say like human about you.
no, I mean there are people like that. You know what? I'm gonna use an example of my own mom. This lady has not done anything wrong in her life. Never drank, never smoked, never said a bad word to anyone. You know what I mean? If anytime she ever get upset, is because somebody else is upset. Always trying to play the Switzerland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For everyone, like she's never done anything bad in her life. There are people like that, but I think we have this. We have this stereotype with women. I think if it's a guy, it's a little bit different. It's like I don't know, man. The guys are usually never like that. So you want to tell me you never stuck your fingers in an outlet when you were little? You know what I mean? You're telling me you never tried to put a knife in there? You know what I mean? It's just, I think it's the guys. You know what I mean? I don't think with girls we.
I mean, I don't know. I guess you're kind of right in a sense, like in the way we look at it. Yeah, like approach someone.
That reminds me of my oldest son. I mean, I've never spanked him. So I mean, let me correct that. I've spanked him before. But I remember the first time that actually like hit him. It was one day that I saw him. He was like 2 years old, 3 years old, and he was messing up with a power outlet. And I was like, "Oh, so you want to play?" So I gave him like on the hand, like before he got like the electrocuted. You know what? You want to know what it feels like? Poke. So
Yeah.
he never went like that even close to the power outlet again.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I do agree with him, but it's got to be a guy. When girl, like I think we picture girls as like these wholesome things that never do anything wrong, don't poop, don't fart around, you know what I mean? Like things like that. And then, but then the guy is like, yeah, I know they sound like, this don't sound right. Like, you can't be just so
and it's
nice.
almost like when you see a guy that's acting too nice and like, acting like there's nothing wrong with him and this and that. Like
You
stuck
are
up.
gay.
No, you're just kind
I'm
of
not
like
gay.
you're.
Yes, you are gay.
No, you kind of look at them. You're like,
Have
who
you
are
seen that
trying
video?
Yeah, the Indian dude.
Okay, first question. Why are you gay?
Why are you gay? Yeah, but like I just see them and I'm kind of like, who are you trying to manipulate?
Not even
Who are you
that.
trying to like kiss ass to?
You know
what I mean? Like,
it almost becomes one of those things. You know how all of these, like these mega church pastors that are all goody two shoes and things like that, and then next thing you find out they're just like laundered millions and millions of dollars. They're like they've done something even worse, like and then you're like, I told you so. You almost become a hater, and you're just waiting to catch them do something wrong because it's just impossible. People can't just be freaking perfect. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. It is what it is. What was the other video that we want to watch?
You want to put the one of Pearly?
Yeah, guys, in the chat, give us your thoughts.
There's a saying in DR, because you know that women, they're actually usually fighting and, like a pain you know where, like, so there's a saying that, like, if a girl, you see her, like, that she acts nice, doesn't fight, don't do anything of that, like, just check her. She has a dick there, honestly. She's a man. She's a man. Like all women, they do.
Hey, Eddie, which one is it?
The one of Pearly.
The girl
Three
that's
down.
in the blue.
Three down from that.
There
one.
you go.
Okay.
Doesn't want to explain like every decision he makes. Men think things through a lot like more than we realize, and so he's already thought about it. He's already made his decision. It's a headache to him when every time he makes a decision he has to explain it to you. A guy doesn't want to explain like.
That's a good one, actually. What y'all think about that?
Are you? No, let me think about this again. I'll just say that. When I remember I saved that video because I just remember thinking of like, not to say that girls don't think things over, and that we do it more than you guys.
They don't. I'll say it.
No, that's not what I'm
I'll
saying.
say it.
He
They
can
don't.
say whatever he wants. I'm not saying that. Because but what I want to say is that I assume that Emily thinks things over more than she maybe did. Like it might be something stupid. And I assume that she thought about it a little more, and maybe she didn't. And then it's like it's like backwards with her. She assumes that I didn't think about something, that even if it was serious, so she like questions my thought process. And so versus like when I go to ask her why she did if she accidentally made a mistake, and she's like, well, because I didn't think about it. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, why is something so basic? And you assume, right? As a guy, you automatically assume that she thought about it and we're all good. And then as for her, she's like, well, did you make sure to do it like this? And did you check that this was like that when you did that? And
Yeah, you know why? I'm going to say it. I'll be that. Girls, majority in general, girls, anytime they're doing something, it's all, first step is emotional. What are my emotions telling me? What is the vibe telling me? What are my crystals telling me? What is my horoscope telling me about this situation? And then coming off of that, then when all that dust settles down, then they start thinking logically. For us, it's different. First, we start thinking logically, and then when they keep telling us something, we're like, nah, bro, that's not it. This is it. And that's when we get in our emotions afterwards. This is why I think a lot of times we're like, okay, well, we're not going to do that. Why are we not going to do that? I'm not a 2-year-old child. Yeah, why are you treating me like that? No, I'm not treating you like a 2-year-old child. We're just not going to do that. I already thought about this, and I don't think it's a good idea. We're going to do this, and we're not doing that. Sorry, like, it's just not going to happen. And then when all that subsides, next day, babe, I thought about it. You were right, because this would go wrong. Yeah, this is why I told you we're not going to do that. Because to me, when I'm thinking about something, I'm thinking logically, right? Like, I'm here to solve the problems, right? And even in this isn't a conversation, bro. You can tell this in a conversation. When your girl talks to you...
Cuidado. Go ahead.
Even in a conversation, when she comes to you and tries to tell you her problems, she just wants you to listen. She doesn't want you to fix the problem. And what do? First thing you do, you put your tool belt on and try to give her advice how to fix the situation, correct? This is what guys do. We think differently. And this is why I'm saying they don't think. I'm not saying that they're not humans. They don't have the capacity to think. Obviously, they do. That would be a stupid thing to say, right? But what I'm saying is the way they think is way different than the way we think as guys. And we have to be like that. watch out, Andrew Tate. Jay's coming for your spot. Nah, I think Andrew got his own spot. He's doing pretty well for himself.
Top J.
Yeah.
Top
No,
J.
it's
He
just
said
it's
that's
just
top
what
G.
it is, bro. It's just what it is. I'm not saying that there's a difference in IQ levels. Absolutely not. There isn't. Like we're all equitable in that sense. It's just the way we process the information is completely different. Not saying one is right and one is wrong. In some situations, this is right, and in the other situations, the other one is right.
Hey man, all I'm saying is free Andrew Tate. He just got another 30 days in Romanian jail though.
Another 30.
Yeah. They can keep him up to 180 days without charging him.
So
What do you think?
So as far as I understand, like to that question, is Andrew Tate still in jail?
He is.
He's still?
Yeah.
I thought he got let him out. You know?
No.
It was like something in Morocco, was it? Where he
No.
was?
No. So what happened is he's been back and forth to Dubai from Romania, and he wanted to move to Dubai because he thinks Dubai is a better place to live, which, up to him, right? He's got the money. He's doing whatever he wants to do. So once they put him to jail, every month they can appeal the jail to let them out. So the last thing that happened, they said that there's a lesion on his lungs, and it could be possibly bad because that was part of the deal why he was going back and forth to Dubai. But then his like chief of security finally broke silence, and he went on an interview on one of the podcasts, and he said no, he's pretty good. So he said everything is good, and he's there. The only thing he said they're doing pretty well, but the problem is Romanian government hasn't charged them yet with anything. They're just holding him, and they have the right to hold up to 180 days.
So at the end of the day, the little girl won.
Greta Thunberg won.
Yeah.
No,
She's-
Greta Thunberg
well-
didn't win.
She's winning as of right now.
She's not winning anything because it wasn't because of her.
Yeah, no. They just made it a thing because he so happened to have got all this stuff done at the same time as her, like making like them going back
So
and forth.
he was finding another person to troll. Who's the next person to troll but Greta Thunberg? You know what I mean? Because he's done trolled everyone on the internet, right? He was going after Greta Thunberg, and Greta Thunberg decided to be slick and bite back at him, and they were going back and forth.
Just talking random bullshit.
Yeah, and then he ordered pizza, and they said, well, because of the pizza, they were able to figure out where this pizza came
Yeah,
from,
that was-
and then find where you
that
are.
was absolute
Everyone
bullshit.
knew where he lives. Everyone knew his house. Like, it's the biggest house in all of fucking Romania. You know what I mean? It's the only house that says Tate on the walls everywhere you go. You know what I mean? Everyone knew who this guy is. So that was bullshit. But
Yeah.
but the point is that they haven't been charged for anything, but yet they're in prison. So there's a bunch of evidence came out. These girls that, from what it looks like, they're framing him. They were in a chat with each other, in a WhatsApp chat, talking about how they're gonna get
Yeah.
let's pretend to be in love with these two brothers.
Basically premeditating all
Yeah,
of this.
yeah. So, and then we're gonna get a Netflix deal out of this and that. Yeah. So there was a Jay, the real top G. No. I'm not a top G. I'm not a G at all. I wouldn't even know what G is. Or what that
You're
life
not a G,
entails.
you're a J.
Yeah, I'm a J. I'm not a G. But yeah. So that's what's going on with him. Which,
Another big thing that's going on in the world right now, Uganda, the parliament just passed
yeah.
a bill criminalizing identifying as LGBTQ, imposes a death penalty for some offenses.
I saw that. So I guess from
Why are you gay?
why are you gay?
Here's the first question for you.
That's literally gonna be like probably some of those like court hearings. Why are you gay?
No, I'm not gay.
have you seen?
You are gay.
Have you seen? There was this was a church event, this gospel, and this guy's he's an African American, and he's singing. He's like, I don't like no men's anymore.
Yeah.
I like women's. I like vaginas.
No, but I mean, I think we can probably all agree that pretty ridiculous that the government is gonna tell them what they can and cannot I identify as, in a sense. Like I get we
Listen,
all agree that
here's
on
the-
the other
here's
standpoint,
the
like
thing.
biological thing. But if somebody just wants to be gay, which or lesbian, which is included in the LGBTQ blah 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 plus, right?
ABCD.
XYZ. I like the whole thing that they did where they did it where it's not allowed to be done. I forgot by what age in certain state. Like they just made that a thing as well. Like where it used to be like freaking talking about 12-year-olds were allowed to decide this. Now they made it
7 years old.
no, it's like 18. Like in a certain place they made it like illegal to allow someone to get a sex change.
You know why,
under
right?
18.
You know why? Because that medicine that they take, it's the medicine that they give to child molesters for basically it's a chemical castration medicine. Because they don't know what to do with these people. They're in jail. They're giving them this medicine. It's a chemical castration. So when you start giving this medicine to younger kids, like it completely fucks up their system, right? And it's not like, they start giving it, it stops. And then after a while, when they get off this medicine,
And
it
I think
continues.
I think it's also
that way.
because they're wanting to restrict the decision making. Like someone at 12 years old shouldn't be able to make that decision. So
Listen, like nowadays you get to see stuff that you like really messed up like situations. I was driving the other day and I saw this huge billboard. Like, has Tylenol caused autism to your son? Like, like stuff like that. Like how can you link Tylenol to autism? And just make that like something like real. Like, is it actually out there? It's like a medicine is actually causing this to my child. Is actually like dude doing this.
You're
and that
right,
and
Easy Win. Top Jake knows it all. Sorry.
Like and you like taking this like stuff of medications or whatever are gonna like like get you have certain preferences or castrate you or whatever. So it's just like mess up like shit like going on. And as far as the LGBTQ plus, because it's like all the alphabets, all the letters in the alphabets there. I mean, I really like I respect everybody, as a human being, but it's just ridiculous the like what you see like every day. Like there's always something new. They're adding like letters, like somebody else, like like it's.
So
you
it's
see
just
the video of the girl. Megan, see if you can find it. There's a video of this girl. This guy's videotaping her, and she goes, "This is the neighborhood, and you are not welcome." And then she starts screaming. Ah!
Yeah.
So I've looked into this, right? You know how like there's a lot of times people like to say, well, it's genetic, right? There is no scientist out there to this day that was able to prove that it is actually genetic. It's not. They're saying that there's a lot more to it than just being genes influencing what's happening. Like there's more to it than just being genetically.
I have a very
influenced.
simple standpoint on all of the whole LGBT thing. Whether you want to do whatever you want, your business. What I can say I don't have a full understanding of is that's what I'm gonna put it as.
Haram.
Understanding is, you Felix, let's say you wanted to do whatever with your life and act whatever in whatever way and wear whatever you want, shouldn't change what you are biologically. Talk about I want to identify as this because you feel like this. Cool. You want to act in any other manner. I think that like. That mindset. Yeah, this is look at this.
Play it.
I'm gonna preach.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
No, you're not.
I need
then
to.
Get a fucking church, pay property taxes.
No, I need to go out to where the lost people are, right?
From your fucking
I need to go out to where the lost people are, to where the people are.
Doesn't have to leave you.
Well, people can hear my words. They can be convicted by the Holy Spirit.
Fucking words. This is the neighborhood, and you are not welcome.
That's why I need to be here.
All right, that's an edit. But yeah, she starts screaming at him.
Dude, what is this thing with screaming? I don't get it. I don't understand this. I really don't. What's the point of this?
It's just annoying.
It's their version of fight.
A fight
Fight or
of
flight,
what?
like fight, like
fight
they
with
just
your own
scream.
vocal cords? Fighting what? You know what I mean?
I don't know, but like I was saying, I think that giving in. This is my understanding. Maybe I'm not educated enough. Which is, I mean, I'm not. Maybe I know I'm not educated enough.
That's right. From now on, don't call me he, him. Call me Top J. That's how I identify as.
Whether you want to.
But yeah, but also
act with
gender
some
affirming
manner.
care has been also proven not to save lives either. So It's kind of difficult question.
Mickey, can you put this like video? It was by Pierce Morgan, and the one like, can I identify as a black lesbian? Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah. Send it to my Instagram if you can do that, or my Facebook, one or the other.
I identify as a what?
I can identify as a black lesbian. That was Pierce Morgan.
Yeah, that one is good. I've seen that too.
Or I think it's Ben Shapiro that tells the girl like, "I'm 60 then.
Yeah.
I'm 60 years old." Or he says something like that. And
Play it.
It's 13 minutes long. I need to find.
Oh, you're gonna find
find
the
the clip. Find the
Okay.
clip. But yeah, like, so my thing is like, do whatever you want with your life. But why should you're basically letting the whole social norms, which is what you're trying to fight against, you're letting those whole social norms define like who you are in a sense. Like, oh, because I feel like a girl, I want to make sure I'm identified as a girl. But you're still, biologically, I'm a man. And if I want to dress like a girl or like a girl, because that's what society says is like a girl, because that's what I feel like, I should be able to go and do that, and that's cool, right? And if I want to be gay, that's cool, whatever. But you saying that, oh, I am going to be a girl now, but you're not.
So
You're absolutely not.
here's the thing with that notion.
I got the clip
this
whenever you guys are ready.
Gender affirming practices have saved lives. Here's the thing with that notion. If someone needs attention and they're saying they're going to delete themselves, and then they get gender reassigned, now they're saying I'm not going to delete myself. They're gonna count that as a win. But in reality, was that really happening? Were they really feeling that way? This is a hocus pocus, right? Like it's what David Copperfield does, right? Like you can't sit down here and tell me like this has been helping, this has not been helping. Or I can tell you the actual studies of people that have affirmed and then they have, self-deleted or still felt the same way. This is something that you can look at and say, okay, well, they felt the same way before and now they feel the same way. As a matter of fact, there was this lady who set out, it took her, I think, 2 years. She set out, she converted from being a woman to a man. And she set out, she was a huge feminist, and she set out to film this movie. And the name of the documentary is The Red Pill, right? So she goes into into a man community. The whole idea was to prove that men are evil, right? So she goes into the community.
She writes a book, actually.
She writes a book. There's a whole documentary about it. And then she ends up ends up self-deleting. And the reason because she self-deleted, not because of gender this, gender that, is because she self-deleted because she goes, I truly want to be a man, and this world hates men. So I no longer can live in this world. So this was the reason why she self-deleted. You know what I mean? And this is known worldwide. And there's another activist right now that went through the gender reassignment surgeries and all that. And it was a guy that became a woman. And now this person is completely against
the
reassignments.
The activist that you were initially talking about, this was like back in like before 2010 that she actually did all of this.
I don't remember the exact year.
It's like 2008, 2007 that she went undercover, and she didn't actually go and take any hormones. She didn't do any surgery. She just straight up like would make sure she had her haircut like a guy, dressed like a dude, would try to talk like a dude. I think did her makeup. That's
lovely. It's like, today I'm gonna be a man. No.
Yeah.
It's like,
so, but yeah, continue.
See, so
I know where you're going with this.
She went. She didn't actually go with any surgeries or anything like that. And I just saw a small clip of an interview that she did after all of this, and she came out with the book before she self-deleted. And she basically, the small clip I saw, she just said that there are a lot of problems and issues that men deal with that the rest of the world doesn't see.
Correct.
That women don't realize that are even there. That we don't really even know what questions to ask, is what she was saying as a woman when it comes to the problems that men have. We don't even really know what's going on there. So to
so
try and say like that the men are evil and this and that, you're like, she basically was saying the same thing.
Yeah, and as far as the percentages go, if you actually dig into percentages, the percentages you can actually look at and say that this is actually happening are the ones that if they felt one way, like clinically diagnosed, and then afterwards they're still being clinically diagnosed, this number doesn't really change much. So they still continue to be clinically diagnosed as such. And the ones that do change, it's very hard to tell whether that was true reality or it was just like one of those things that give me attention, this and that, right? Like this is why I don't believe in that, because there's no way to prove that.
I don't even know what you're arguing with about.
No, he's talking about gender reassignment and how gender reassignment saves lives. And what I'm saying is I'm not sure I can believe that because we don't really have proper numbers to say that this is actually happening, because we can't really gauge how someone feels. Do you see what I'm saying? Like there's no way for you to tell.
Let's
how
take a look
someone
at the
feels.
Piers Morgan video real quick.
All right, go ahead, play it.
I identify as a black lesbian.
Well, firstly, I mean, it was.
Well, I'm serious. I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I, on International Women's Day, say I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd status,
I think that's
talking about quite a
with
strong
respect, I think
physical
that
change.
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say, I'm a woman. So I simply ask you, why can't I?
I mean, this point kind of ridicules trans people to an extent.
Actually, I think what you said ridicules trans people. Why can't...
Yes, he paused it. Do you see what she did? Because she had no rebuttal. She went immediately to this shaming language. This ridicules trans people because she had zero rebuttal to this. And this is part of the whole logic conversation versus emotional. She got into her emotions immediately, where Pierce is just logically like taking her apart. And she's supposedly, I think she's supposedly an authority about the subject. But yet, when she's faced with these difficult questions, she goes immediately into the emotional part and starts ridiculing him for saying something, right? Like trying to put shame on him, as opposed to actually sit down and have an intelligent conversation. So,
like this guy has been destroying, all those type of arguments. He got a vegan the other day there, and he started like eating a McDonald's, like hamburger.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm gonna eat this right like in front of her. And the lady's like,
but see, here's the whole thing. Like, just like you said earlier, right? Do whatever you want. Don't shove that shit down my throat. I don't want to taste it. Don't. You know what I mean? You live your life. You're not bothering me. I'm not bothering you. What's your point of coming in and trying to do this and to do that? And the largest problem that I have right now is like the whole sex ed in the schools. Since I think middle school, they have literally like pictures of actual fellatio, and they're explaining to the kids of same sex, like something that, I just teach this to my kids. Let me do that. Let me do that.
At the same time, I love to think of like my thoughts or how the way I think shouldn't have to impact directly anybody else's life unless it's my kids, right?
Yes.
Then that's my problem. You know what I mean? But beyond that, I don't take it upon myself to show and teach anybody else how they should live their life. So.
And by the way, these are just opinions that we're talking about, right? Yeah. Like, we don't want you to change
your opinion.
Educated. Yeah, we're not educated. We're not trying to have you change your opinion or live your life the way we say it. Listen.
But like, for example, the other day, I'll give my own personal example too. I wasn't talking about a video, but when I was working at Best Buy, I had someone come in, and this person was dressed what you would call as a female. Right, what we would normally say as a female, right? And had long hair, and but me being observant, I noticed when they handed me their item to return their item, I was working at the customer service desk at the time, I noticed very big hands. This person was tall. I was like, oh, that's just a tall girl. But then I saw the big hands and like bony knuckles, and I was like, ooh, okay, no, that's not, that wasn't a girl. Not my problem, right? And I would make sure to politely say ma'am and this and that, and I slipped up. And at the very end, I said, have a good day, man. And I could feel like I could feel like the anger coming, like radiating off that person, and then just like turned around and walked away, right? And then like, that was like a slip up of mine, and I don't think like that person could like officially get mad over that because it was a 100% opposite like accident. I was actually trying to respect, I was saying ma'am and this and that, but like then going to the video, I wanted to give an example too. I saw a video the other day. This guy and was arguing with a trans woman. What looked like to be a trans woman, I think, and he was forcefully being like, sir, like, I'm gonna call you sir. I don't care what the fuck you say. I'm gonna call you sir. But this sir was clearly dressed as a woman, even had makeup on, like lipstick, eyeshadow, was like in girl clothing and stuff. And in that situation, I was kind of like, what's so hard for that guy to just be like ma'am instead of sir? In that situation, I get don't push it down my throat on why and this and that, but if someone as a guy comes dressed to you as a girl, it's not that hard to just call them what they are, to call them what they want to be called.
Listen, kids also don't want to do a lot of things. They're your kids, and it's your job to discipline them and teach them what you think is right. It's up to you to decide what you're going to do, because your kids sometimes don't want to shower. So your kids sometimes don't want to brush their teeth. Your kids sometimes don't want to eat their broccoli, but you make them do it. So if they don't want to talk about it, too bad. We're going to have this conversation. So you're telling me, oh, my kid rather talk to a teacher, rather some person that I don't know explains this shit to them?
I mean, I guess it's not.
Yeah,
Come on.
I want my kids to be, my friends. And actually, I got...
Kids don't want to talk about this. Yeah, they also don't want to eat broccoli. Then what?
Like, for example, I got so... I felt so embarrassed the other day. Because, my oldest son approached me, and he's like, he told me, like, yeah, Dad, this, girl got suspended from the after-school program. I was like, what? What happened? So, yeah, she got caught vaping in the after-school. So
10 years old.
Like 8. So apparently she stole her mom's vape and brought it into the after school and did that over there, hiding and stuff like that. So, I felt a little bit embarrassed, about vaping and having this conversation. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should have a conversation with my son about, what's, vaping and this and that and why is it that I do this and that, But it's like, and again, the environment is always going to drag them, down to whatever topic or whatever people are doing. They're like, this is cool, this is not. Like, perhaps being gay is cool now, and everybody is like, okay, I'm gonna be gay just because it's cool. I don't know,
bro. So I have a very good example. So when I was younger, my uncle smoked. Right, he smoked cigarettes, and a lot of cigarettes. And I think I was like 9 or 8, maybe 10, 11 years old. Him and his buddy one day were over at our house, and my brother and I were sitting on a couch just like this. And him and his buddy looked at us and said, and as they're smoking, he goes, I know what you young guys want to do. You see us smoking, you're probably going to want to do it yourself, right? If we ever found out that you're doing this, I'm going to cut both of your ears and make you eat them. And I can do it, right? And they just stared at us. They put the fear of God in us with smoking. And that was the time where everybody was kind of starting to try to smoke. I didn't touch cigarettes till very, very late in my life. When I was 24, that was the first time I actually tried smoking cigarettes, right? 24 years old. Until 24, that one conversation put the fear of God in me. So all I'm saying is that there is a way to do it. Where there is a will, there is a way. No one else should take care of these problems than you for your own children. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're the one that decided to bring these children to life, and I think it's your job to raise them the way you want to. Just bottom line.
But I think when it comes to sex education, it always starts at home, and it's always, sex is always gonna be a taboo, regardless,
Yeah, just believe in that whole woke nonsense of, oh, it's just the way. Yeah, it just makes a taboo. Yeah, well, maybe it should be a taboo. Then 15-year-olds are not getting pregnant. Just saying.
No, and you're right.
When it was a taboo, they were not getting pregnant in the numbers that they are right now. So,
and you're right, but what's what's the correct age for you to actually like teach a child. I mean, you understand it's still a kid that it's not onto that level. Like, do you had a conversation like, listen, again, being a parent is difficult. You know, I have like, you know, my oldest son is always almost gonna be 10. So there's always this conversation about like, yeah, like when is the correct time to talk about Santa Claus, for example, or when is the correct time to talk about like, you know, cigarettes or drugs, you know, because I told him the other day, like, you know, about drugs, and I don't remember why, because we were watching a movie, and it was like, okay, like, yeah, oh yeah, I was sorry. Maybe it's my fault. I was watching Cocaine Bear. and to my surprise, it was not even my 9-year-old. It was my 6-year-old. Like, what, Daddy, what's going on with the bear? So, again, like, how can you explain that to a 6-year-old? And because at that point they're just gonna be repeating whatever you're saying. You know, oh yeah, like, you know, my dad is talking about cocaine in my house. You know, so it's just not like until that point. So, like, it's always gonna be difficult, man. It's always gonna be difficult for you to start a conversation. But I think you need to be ahead of the game.
Well, yeah.
You need to be like, you know, like, so. To me, surprises are not good. I hate surprises. You know, I hate surprise. I hate to be surprised, and I hate, like, you know, finding out like, oh, like, you guys, like, you know, for my birthday, you guys were waiting for me, you know, like, for a huge like dinner party, and I was like, I love the gesture for my wife. Like, I thank her, like, truly, all you guys. But I really think, like, hiding stuff, like, from me, that's, like, killing me. It's like you're talking about, like, behind my back, and everybody's talking about me and this and that. So I was like, listen, I hate this shit. I need to be on top of my game and everything. So, and I hate lying. I hate lies, like, overall. So I feel like shit every time I understand I'm lying to my son for whatever reason. You know, so it's always gonna be a taboo. Whatever topic that you want to bring into the equation. Whatever you want to bring into the like the day-to-day discussion, it's always gonna be hard. But again, it's either you gotta make a decision, like, hard and like a band-aid, like, real quick. It's like, it's either you or who is actually gonna be telling them, like, what's the right version of the story.
Yeah, because they're
the friends in school. Like, you don't know the parents' traditions, whatever it is, or blah blah blah, or what it is, or the shit they're seeing on the media, or whatever they're seeing on YouTube. You know, which they have access now to everything, because both of my kids, they have access to, like, more information than I do. Probably my kids have they have seen more information regarding every topic. You know, the thing is they don't understand what it is that they're seeing. You know, but they constantly on YouTube, like, every day.
Well, so I mean, if you're talking about, like, the sex ed kind of, like, talk with you know, in school, I don't necessarily see anything wrong with, you know.
In what grade did they started teaching you?
Middle school. No. And it was actual sex education.
Not sex education. Puberty, yes.
So they're saying, like, for you guys, like, over there, they're saying that they started sex education. You know, he says it's in middle school. We have a visitor here.
So
she's saying it was she started hearing about sex education in 5th grade.
Yeah,
5th grade.
So I think this is what's happening.
So you were about what? What age?
I mean,
like 11.
That's how 6th grade. I was 11 years old.
So 10, 11.
So this is the way I looked at it. You know, they explained it pretty well in the sense that we're explaining this to you now because now is when you're gonna start coming into the age where, you know, your sex is dangerous. You know, you can have a potentially a baby. We've seen the girls having babies at 12, 13 years old, getting pregnant. Not saying having a baby, but getting pregnant, right? But so I kind of see it as appropriate as them bringing it in as that age.
Well, see, the reason they even bringing that out in that manner, hey, because this is gonna be dangerous, is because they're already assuming that you've already consumed that information and you know what that is.
How would they assume?
So that? Because in my opinion, again, I don't have any anything to back this up, no scientific research or anything. In my opinion, what's happening with information, just like you said, being so.
But free, I wasn't at that age. That information wasn't available like that.
So, but then see, this is the thing. If your surroundings, because it's not just you, it's the surroundings that you have. All it takes is one kid running around and saying, "Well, your mom and dad, this is how they had you, and you didn't come with the story."
At that point, like girls are always ahead of the game on that regard, you know.
Yeah. So
when it comes to sex education, I think I mean, like.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that girls are ahead? And like
at that age? Yes.
Really? You think that? I don't think so. I really don't believe that.
Like obviously it's something that
parents
need to have this conversation with daughters.
At 13, right?
Like it's different with boys. Like obviously I'm not gonna be surprised of having like my son pregnant at my house. It's not gonna happen. But like if you have a daughter, that's a conversation that need to be happening. And I honestly think that like women, girls at that age they start getting the urge, start itching. They have, they start getting the need.
You can't say anything. You can't say any different about men. Just because the pregnant baby isn't coming back to your house doesn't mean you don't have to worry about.
I think for boys,
Emily,
you
have to worry about your son going
multiple
babies at
once. At
once.
what age you started getting curious about like sex and everything?
What?
She's not gonna want to answer that.
When the boys hit puberty, right?
Like
they produce in comparison, right?
Oh, probably like friend of yours. Like
you think she remembers the day she was like, "I want some dick"? No, she doesn't remember that.
No, but
so I can tell you this is for a fact. When boys hit puberty and they start producing testosterone in the quantities that the boys do, in comparison, it's the same thing as like let's say Eddie, you and I. Like we produce a teaspoon, they're producing a whole coffee mug of testosterone when they hit puberty. So I think it's in both sexes it's happening at the same time. But in my opinion, it is that the availability of information and having that information, that's why the age has to go lower and lower and lower, because that information escapes. Because back in the day, without the globalization of the internet and things like that, this was able to be pushed back a little more. There was more control.
Now there is sex ed in your like school.
Bro, we were much older. I think we were already in a high school, like mid high school, like 10th, 11th grade.
Lynette, if you're watching, I'm wondering because you're like kind of in the middle, right? It's 8 years older than me.
Yeah, 11th, 10th grade.
I wonder. I feel like Lynette would have been around
the
same as
me.
But
Lynette went to school here in the United States. We grew up in a different country. In different countries, these things, did they happen? Yes, 100%. But over there,
or more traditional countries as well.
Yes, because over in the other countries, you're a little more sheltered from this.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like in Cuba at least, you get hands-on experience on that stuff. You don't
do, but not in a quantity as you do here.
You said they just be throwing you in the orgy and like fuck it. That's how you learn.
Learn how to swim.
To be honest, bro, I never had a conversation with none of my parents about sex like that. I heard them talking within each other and family talking about sex.
Yeah, but when you think about it, that's
I had condoms dropped at the room. That's it.
Not I.
Figure it out.
Listen, what do you
know what to do, boy?
Yeah, but when you think about it, that's ridiculous, because like stuff is happening like around you, like this young girls like young age, whatever, stuff is happening. Girls are getting pregnant. Probably there's a couple of like STDs like here and there or whatever it is.
Yeah. But the percentage is so small in other countries of that versus here.
Like obviously that's like, and again, like all these like first world countries, they're way ahead of like in everything, information. And again, it's all about access to information. I think like in those traditional countries, the are traditional countries like. You having
conservative, not traditional, conservative.
Correct, but I'm sorry for my.
No, because
part of myself for my broken English priority.
No, it's not broken English. It's because a lot of people are gonna catch your word and say, "Well, that's not a traditional."
Yeah.
Just the point is
what I'm saying is like you, I don't know, like when I was like on my 16, 17s probably. You're hearing or listening to an idea of a girl moving out of her house without being like moving in with a boyfriend.
Yeah,
that was unheard of. That was like you got a big X on your head
for the rest of your life.
Rest of your life, they should your like they like pretty much ban you for like from everything. Like, yeah, probably this girl is it's a whore or whatever you want to call her or whatever it is. But this is not normal. Like here, it's normal and it makes sense. Because honestly, the worst thing about getting married, honestly,
what's up, buddy?
The worst thing about getting married is obviously you having the opportunity to get to live with a person like 24/7, and that is hard. You live in the same space with the same person, so you need to interact with the person that you understand. You're gonna be spending the rest of your life.
Let me play
to see if it actually works. Because otherwise, like, yeah, I got married today, and then we live together, and yeah, like, listen, we're not a match. And then I think you're married.
Let me play devil's advocate here a little bit. I don't think that here is looked at as normal for what your situation is said. People still look at that and go, those are a bunch of dumb kids.
Yes, but it's more accepted.
No.
It is.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe it's more accepted. And I believe you're seeing it more because of the amount of information available to us, right? Everybody, you fart,
Correct.
it's online.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So, back in the day, it wasn't like that. It was a lot easier for things to be kept under wraps. Like they talk about, it's easier to murder people back in the day because nobody fucking knew, right? Now technology and all these things lets everybody know what everything is happening.
That's
so
true.
I think that has opened our eyes to say, oh, well, that might be happening more than it was, but maybe it wasn't.
That's
And
why the level when they start educating has gone down because of the availability of information.
I understand that.
But the thing is, like, for men, there's no age for parents to explain like the information, like sex education or information, you know. But this is a topic, that needs to be, had in a certain, house. Like, for example, for like young women when let's say when they first get their period, that's a conversation, like, okay. I'm guessing, like girls going through that phase. So that's like the moment that at least, moms like, listen, like, daughter, like now you're a young lady. This is going to happen. Now this and this. So that you can get it,
When you start finding those hard socks and T-shirts or whatever your son's using, that's when you have that conversation. What do you mean? Like, I get what you're saying. Like, you look at it as more as a danger because you're the pregnant person is coming to your household, but your son can go get multiple people pregnant in 5 months, and it's like a bunch of babies now is under your name.
I feel like if I had a daughter, she has her period for the first time, and I would just be like, yeah, you got 3 days to live.
Listen, the amount of days to live. 3 days to live. Listen.
About women with no women present.
There you go.
Well, we can have an opinion about women. It's all good. So with your son, unless your son is one of those popular boys in school, he's not going to walk around in 5 months and impregnate a bunch of girls, right? That's not going to happen. And if your son is one of those kids, you kind of know, and this is where you sit him down to the side, it's like, and you say, hey, I see you getting, yeah, it can, but what is the chances of the boy actually that happening with the boy? Very low. It's with the girl, in my opinion, it's with the girl because they're a little more naive, a little less understanding how boys operate, that they can sell you the dreams, you know what I mean? But in reality, that's not the case. And they're too young for that type of responsibility.
So Lynette, at what age do you actually, starting getting sex education?
My sex education story is kind of funny. It's different than anybody else is ever going to say.
Water.
Well, how about this? Then don't say your story. Say what your age group, women or men, when did they get their education?
So the first set of sex education that we get in school here.
No, at your time.
When I was, was 5th grade.
5th grade.
Fifth grade, they would do a whole thing on what period is, what sperm is, the egg, ovulation, all that stuff, and then they would separate the girls into one classroom and the boys into another classroom, and kind of talk about like that end of sex for each person, for each sex. But that it was very much more the scientific end of it. Good,
I agree with that.
And the puberty, like this is what's about to start happening to your body.
That's what I got.
Perfect. I think that's a great way to approach it.
And then the actual sex part came in middle school. I don't remember if it was 7th or 8th grade. Or my teacher put a condom on a banana and she went through the whole thing.
But did they go through?
And
But did they go through the whole idea? I was like, all right, they go through the STDs and this, but did they go through the idea? Okay, well, if you do get pregnant, this is what's going to happen as far as like the responsibilities that come along with it. The idea that you're way too young to take up on these responsibilities.
So I think as they start at the beginning, like right away in that whole, because it's a health class, it's not just a sex education class.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things in that health class is that it goes back to what you learned in the 5th grade, and then they kind of just add on to it, and you end up with a baby, and babies need to be fed, and they get up every 2 hours,
and they give you your Tamagotchi. Got it. Like, or the little baby that cries.
Actually, you don't get that till high school.
You don't get that till high school. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know. When I went to high school, I did it in high school. I actually did it my sophomore year. It was a really high-tech baby.
Yeah.
Where I had like a bracelet that she could cut off, like with she ran a little strip through it and then put it on my wrist. And that bracelet had a magnet that was specific to my baby. When my baby cried, I had to attach baby to magnet, and it would know that, okay, now I'm the one taking care of the baby. And the baby knew if you were holding it. The baby had a bottle.
But my question is, why not earlier? Why not in 5th grade? Because I think once you get that responsibility in the kids, because children usually don't like to be responsible for anything. They want to play, they want to do this, they want to do that. When you introduce that responsibility, they're going to think about it twice before they say, okay, like if this boy is just saying, oh, you know what, it's just a tip. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen.
In the 5th grade, you haven't hit puberty yet. At least most.
Okay.
Right? So 5th grade is still too young. In middle school here is so bad, and I think it's because of all the hormones that these kids are experiencing all at once in a group of kids.
Yeah.
My experience with the little high-tech baby...
Fill it up, bro. What are you doing?
I don't think that's an option for middle schoolers because these babies were hundreds of dollars, and they're not going to give them to middle schoolers who wouldn't care. Like, in middle school, if you fail that grade, you probably don't care as much as if once you're in high school and you're
why don't they make it? See, is a proposition. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. Proposition. If you failed that class, you're not allowed to go further.
That's the thing is I don't think at that age you don't think of those consequences.
Yeah, but at that age, they do think of the consequences of getting pregnant.
No.
What do you mean no? At 12, 13?
They're not thinking about it.
At 12, 13?
They're learning about what is fun. They have not yet realized that there's a consequence.
Correct, because that fun comes with a cost. My point is you teach them the cost before the fun even gets there. When they see the cost, they might not want to have the fun.
It's not get the cost.
They do that. They show us in high school.
Look at the Aluma. That baby was perfect.
In middle school,
she said that then because I never got pregnant.
Listen,
as a high schooler, but now I think she regrets it.
Wait a minute. Me. This is actually good. Somehow, fear-mongering and abstinence has worked for decades.
I don't think it has.
It has.
It
for
just
decades.
keeps things under the rug.
It
just sweeps it under the
rug. Correct.
It's just what gives it the taboo name to it. They're still gonna do it.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. What do you mean?
It's happening everywhere. The difference is...
I remember plenty of people in my middle school fucking...
But you were already grown up in 2000s. I'm talking about
this is
1960s,
the story.
1950s,
Yeah, and then they would ship the girls off somewhere else so that people didn't know that she was pregnant. And the girls were still getting pregnant. People just didn't know it.
Not in the same numbers though.
But this is a story since inception. You know, like it all started with Adam and Eve. Everybody wants a piece of what's forbidden. Huh?
No. I was just being an asshole.
What was that question?
I was like, it was Adam and Eve because there's a thing, like people that are big believers, in the church. They're saying it's not. It's always been Adam and Eve and not Adam and Steve. That's
yeah. So everybody wants a piece of like the forbidden thing. Like. And if you keep that as a taboo, don't talk about it, don't touch it. This is like,
I think that's alcohol.
This is the devil. Then everybody it's curious about it, and you want to go into it. Like people saying like, no, don't do it. It's because they really want you to do it.
What'd you find?
Past 30 years, teen pregnancies have gone down 77%.
Very nice.
Down.
Down.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I didn't know.
So people.
so that proves that what we're saying, like fear mongering, didn't help. Now, teaching kids what it is helps more, and teaching kids what, because they were having sex. Kids
I was
are having
ignorant.
sex.
No longer am ignorant.
That's what I was.
Kids are always having sex.
When I said
The
I was gonna
difference
play
is,
devil's
do they
advocate, I
know-
was saying like, less information. We just didn't know that they were having the sex.
Exactly. And then when they got
Like
pregnant,
it's some
the
forbidden
sex.
shit.
When they got pregnant, it was hidden. They were taken to backyard clinics for abortions.
Coat hangers, got it.
Or it was, that's my sister when they started growing up. They didn't tell people that she got pregnant. They just said, oh, mom had pregnant. They went to whatever town, grandma's house, to have the baby, and then mom came back pregnant, and mom came back with the baby. It was mom's baby. That's the things they did back then to protect the girls because it was
We're
very
still
taboo.
fucking.
Yeah. The sex was still happening, just without the protection.
But again, I was telling this. I mean, it's always gonna be harder for girls than boys. It's like, oh, it's the same thing like for both, because like your son could have like plenty of kids and they still have like.
Their body doesn't change. Their body doesn't have to go through.
It's not the same, and it's not a responsibility. You
What?
know? Like probably for your dad. I mean, obviously they love Eddie, but if this guy who have like 5 boys, and yeah, I'm like fuck it, go ahead and do what. However, you would have lived in you were living at your parents' place. You come over, you're there like all the time. You're with the kid. Your house changes.
Let me tell you.
Well, I think it's the consequences afterwards that are more important.
And now that I know better and that I'm older and I know my mom, I'm like, she would have pretended to be mad for like 30 minutes and then she would have gotten over it with the thought of a grandchild. But in my head, growing up, I had the mentality that the day I told my mom I was pregnant, before being married, I was going to find all my stuff in the front yard the next day.
Yeah.
That was 100% what I believed. I did not doubt that for 1 second. Now I know better that she wouldn't have done that, but...
Yeah, but see, that would have... I think that...
And I would have been called the dumb motherfucker if I got anybody pregnant. Even now, I could get Emily be like, oh, I'm pregnant. Like, Eddie, why? What are you doing? It's the same thing. Yes, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. The consequence, the real life consequences are more, and there's taking more thought to.
But the thing is that if you get Emily pregnant, it's your problem.
Yes.
It's not your dad's problem.
Correct. Not because you're a grown up now.
If Lynette was the one getting pregnant, living in that house, that's their problem. Because she's living at their house.
Yes.
And that's the difference, bro.
I get what you're saying.
And not only that, and if she did get pregnant, so there's whole idea of that. If she does get pregnant, and if that boy doesn't stick around, now she's a teen mom that's raising a child, and now later in her life, when she goes to find another guy, the guy might be the perfect Prince Charming, but be like, bro, you have a daughter, I don't want you. This is the reason why, since back in the day, parents never wanted the girl to get pregnant, because now this other guy has to raise someone else's child, and it's known that guys don't really necessarily like to do that.
Yeah.
So getting back to our original topic here, I was saying, I don't necessarily disagree with how they showed me, at least, like my upbringing on like sex education. I mean, they just showed I looked at it as how they explained it. Like I told you earlier, you're coming into the age of where this thing has consequences. And everybody here is fertile, so things can happen. And that's when they start explaining things, and they just explain the straight up science to it. And they explain like top to bottom everything that's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's a video where they have like this egg and a bunch of little swimmers coming at it. It's kind of funny now that you think about it, but
yeah, but it got the job done though, right?
So
now is it the same now, or like it was?
I see, for example,
I think it's a little more.
I see,
involved.
for example, Tia Luma saying like, Felix, you're wrong. I will quit my job to help them.
Yeah, that's the point. That's what Felix is saying.
And I don't disagree at all with that. The thing is that because of that, probably, it's just gonna depend where Emily lives. If she's living at their parents' house, then what's gonna be the thing now? Because probably
Emily's mom is gonna quit the job to help.
As things go, it's like, what is it that you're gonna do? are you guys are gonna be separate? Because now you're expected to live in a household or a family, you know.
But
So
see, this is
how are you gonna be
look
raising
at Alex. What he
how are
said.
you gonna be raising that kid? Like your dad living here, your mom living there. I mean, Tialuma, I'm sorry, but you're the first person that you're not gonna be like allowing and accepting that thing, and probably her parents the same way. So it's either like, listen, you guys get a separate house, or one of you guys move here and here there. But that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So did you see what Alex said, about the child support and everything, right?
About suing, yeah.
Yeah, about suing.
But
It's
if
not
it
like
happens, it is what
your
it is.
daughter. She was this nice little angel. She didn't do anything wrong. So let's sue another family and take their money because your daughter got pregnant.
Well, they're gonna sue for what I'm assuming. What he's
Child
saying is
support.
Sue for child support if the father wants nothing to do with it.
Well, if the father wants something to do with it, he's 14, 15 years old. What kind of child support? He's going to bring his school lunch money and give it to the girl? 25% of his school lunch money? Come on, man.
Sue the family.
That's what I'm trying to say. This is the whole idea. It's not like the boy did something wrong, but the girl, oh my God,
did.
no. They
both
both
did, yeah.
So why are they suing the family?
Because if the
Because
boy
the girl's
went,
suffering her consequences, he's got to suffer his.
yeah,
What do you
Just
mean the
like
girl's
Felix says.
suffering her
because
consequences?
you got to deal with a baby, but he
now
doesn't.
that family has to deal with the baby.
Yeah.
Just
But
like
he shouldn't
Yeah,
have to just because he didn't want
so
to.
knowing that, maybe they should have taken steps not to get
Duh,
that
that's
girl
what,
pregnant.
of course we understand that they shouldn't have
That-
had sex in the first place.
Correct.
But that already happened.
yeah.
It already
did.
happened. They already did.
So who fucked up?
Both of them.
Well,
And now
both
she's
of them.
got to carry a baby and take care of a child.
Yeah. So what he's saying is that if this
So
little
if she's
kid
got to carry the
wants-
baby and
wants
take
to
care of
have
the
sex with,
child,
then go, no,
maybe there
no,
should be.
I don't want to
maybe
deal
there
with
should
this
be a
little
little
boy. The family of the girl has the right to then be like, well, we need compensation because your little boy did some fucked up shit.
Yeah. So in that, with that being said, if the girl, in what you're saying, guys, if the girl carries a bigger responsibility and bigger risk. What?
My mom.
So if the girl takes more responsibility and carries a higher risk, wouldn't that make sense to have these conversations earlier with the child, and tell them, listen, there's these responsibilities, there are these things. If you get pregnant, this is what's going to happen. Because they're bearing more risk, right? Like for the cars, for example, a Subaru car is nominated as one of the more dangerous cars to drive. So Subaru, especially WRX STI, the insurance is much higher on a WRX STI than a Corolla. Because they're known to be a little more risky cars.
Yeah, listen, Alex. I know
That's
that.
comparing women to
I know the
cars.
parent.
That's the one that everyone can understand.
I know the parents of the underage child.
WRX STI is sorry, Felix, just trying to.
STIs are more to insure than a Corolla.
Yeah, but because a teenage boy wants an STI because it's quick and fast.
Correct. This is why they're more expensive
Yeah.
to insure. Just like a teenage girl has more risk. The reason I use this analogy because it's easy to understand. Just like a teenage girl has more risk when she gets pregnant. So you would need to insure, meaning have these conversations, a lot more stringent conversations with a girl than a boy. Do you see what I'm saying? Because of who bearing the risk. Because we're not equal at the end of the day. We are not equal.
The conversation with the girl is very different than the conversation with the boy.
Yeah.
And
Correct. And I agree with that.
And they both need to happen. Unfortunately, at that age, as much conversation as you have, they are still not 100% understanding real consequences.
Yeah.
100% agree with that as well.
Yeah.
So doesn't matter how much conversation you have.
And you keep reinforcing that.
But here's the thing, like also, I had that conversation with my mom. I remember that conversation. It was very short and simple for me. Like my mom pretty much said, I got my period, and she said, now you can get pregnant, so be careful. That was the end of the conversation with my mom. With that specific conversation.
Did it make you understand what that means?
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to say. That was the end of that specific conversation. What made the difference to me wasn't that conversation. That conversation meant nothing. Like, it was like, okay, I got my period now. Actually, every girl I think at that age is either like, if they haven't received the right education, they're like, what is this? Or they're like, oh, yay, because all their older friends already have their period. So it doesn't really mean much. What conversations make a difference are the ones where I would go out with my friends and my mom would be like, "Who are you going with? What are you doing?"
Well, that's my
That's
point.
the different. That's the conversations that made a difference.
That's the point.
And then even as an adult, I mean not adult, but like an older teenager, 18, 19. Where are you going? How long are you gonna be out? Remember not to be easy. Literally, that's what I would say. Remember, guys don't like girls who are easy. And that was those
guys
are the
love those girls. They just don't wife them.
Well, that's what she meant.
Yeah,
they don't.
but the point is that she kept having that same conversation over and over and over with you in a different way, and
Yes.
I agree with that.
You have to evolve with the child. You can't continue the same conversation over and over again.
No, and I agree with that. But just like you said, that made a difference, right? Like, because just like you said, you don't care. Egg swims, egg doesn't swim, sperm swims, sperm doesn't swim. Nobody cares about that shit. None of that shit is interesting, fun to watch, and nobody cares about that stuff. But what does make a difference is you as a parent, you need to control who your kids are hanging out with.
Can I say that I'm assuming that maybe a little bit of why there's 77% decline in teen pregnancies is because of educating properly with the science of what's really going on.
Well, no, not
Also,
educating
not
properly.
only-
No, I agree with educating properly, but is it because people are more open and they're talking to their kids, or is that because they're getting this education at school? There's a big
I think
I think a
it's
combination.
The thing
I think
is,
I
like,
believe it's a
Okay,
combination.
okay. and
the
I'm
thing
okay with
is that over the years, like all this new generation, they saw how messed up like all those old kids went into the same situation, and just by example, the new generation is like they just don't want to go like through that shit.
Yeah.
Well, not only that.
Playing
'cause
wise man.
I think right now
It's
there's
like, yeah, this happened to my mom, to my auntie, my whatever. Like they got pregnant. They had me when I was in a situation. I don't want to go through that. So
And then
like,
I had to
think
sleep
it
at the
was
train
so-
station, and so
It was so taboo back then that even the moms were not having the conversation at all. It was just sex is bad. Sex is against what God believes. You should only have sex to have babies. Right? And so curious kids were just doing it behind their parents' back.
no, that's fine. But yeah, no, I get that. But what I'm
curious kids know horny kids.
yeah, which they all are,
Yeah.
which they all are.
well,
But
that's the thing.
curiosity is where it starts, right?
And it goes to the very old question, protection or not protection, Eddie?
What do you mean?
But
Prote-
that's
oh,
something-
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean?
But that's what has to be taught.
Double
Protected sex or not protected sex? That's gonna be the question.
Felix.
Well, the thing they
double
used to,
protection. I love the smell
no,
of
the
burning
thing
rubber.
they used to always tell us in school was, when I remember being in middle school and hearing this, was like, well, the best protection is like not having sex at all.
That's
abstinence.
bad. That's bad.
Abstinence is what
It
they
is.
used
It
to
is.
say.
If you think about it.
Yeah, that's
It is.
That's the only
literally
100% way you're not getting pregnant, right?
No, not really. I was told
What?
I was told by.
Jesus Christ!
He is
Listen.
going to come up on some knowledge that
Listen,
I know. Yes.
And this is true facts. I was told that the best,
Pull out doesn't work.
the best
Pull out and pray.
method, like for to not conceive, is actually the pill.
What pill? Which one?
Birth control.
Yeah, but see, I'm kind of
that-
against
Yeah,
that.
so
I'm
women-
super
women-
against that.
For women, they take the pill.
You trying to tell me?
For women, they take the pill. They hold it in their hands. They put it here. Do this. They're never gonna get
Bro,
pregnant
bro.
ever.
He went completely different way with that I was thinking. Never mind.
Here, like
Never
this.
mind.
They're never gonna get pregnant. Like
Yeah.
this, man. That's the
You get them a chastity belt, and you flip
That-
the key
that
down
too.
the toilet.
Well, if I have a daughter, probably that would be a conversation about how.
But I think that like the conversations and the conversation about birth control and using condoms, because it's not so taboo, you can actually have that conversation with your child.
But
Versus
see, the
before
birth
it was just
control-
like, no, don't do it.
Well, I think the reason it's not so taboo anymore is because they were forced to, like information is so regularly available, so they can't keep it taboo, because even if they want to, they're still going to be seeing it all over the internet.
But even for me, when I was at that age, information wasn't that available.
No, and even for me at
So-
middle school, I didn't have a I didn't have a smartphone until like my freshman year or 8th grade or something like that. So like at that time I still had a flip phone. I was still dealing with like a computer that
Hello, Moto.
probably took like 10 years to load up.
So can we talk about the
I remember
the pill
getting my
and
first
how there's
iPhone
studies
11th
that are
grade.
coming up right now and saying that how bad the pill is actually.
Oh my god!
The
pill is horrible, and they know it. Doctors.
Can I say this real quick as a guy? And I don't mean to like.
Oh, by the way, fuck them kids.
I don't.
You know what
I
I'm
don't.
saying?
Fuck them kids.
Do whatever you gotta do. Do whatever you gotta do.
I don't mean to like put information out there like that, but I've always like expressed to my partner that if you want to go back to traditional styles of protection because it's better for your health, whatever, because all the like methods of birth control for women
terrible,
are just literally to fuck with their hormones, throw them off level to make them believe their body's pregnant already, so they can't get pregnant again. And that's like basically what they're doing is to trick their own bodies, and that has no like good things to it.
No, yeah.
No, birth control is absolutely horrible.
Just pull out words anytime. Coming for the guy that has 3 kids.
I wouldn't say every time.
I had a teacher who said pull-out method was like trying to stop a train with your hand.
Nah, I mean,
what do you think? You Spider-Man? No.
I think that could. I think that could work with a lot of.
Spider-Man's out there hanging like this,
with a lot of experience.
But for the kids he was giving this lesson to, I mean, you really think that
there's no experience.
14-year-old is
like
pulling out on time?
Like,
no.
They see it right away. So, but what I'm saying is like they're pushing the pill on every single girl. Like the minute they hit 16, oh, you got acne? Here's some birth control. That will fix your acne. Well,
I mean, in
you got headaches?
Cases,
here's
certain cases
pill.
I've heard of like birth control doing both things. That's the thing. In some cases, it actually does help girls level out their hormones and get on a regular period schedule and stuff like that. Speak on that. If you're saying temporarily, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. But Eddie, here's the issue with that. They're supposed to have those levels. That's
normal.
But they don't
naturally. So some girls don't naturally.
No. So
that's normal.
It's being used. When I was 15, I was given birth control because my periods were lasting longer than they should. And so I got on birth control. It was back and forth because it was horrible, the experience. Finally figured one out that worked. Stayed on it for many years.
I take it. I take the pill. It doesn't matter.
Stayed on it for many years, even before I was even sexually active. Way before I was sexually active. And then last year, I got off birth control. I've got acne like a 15-year-old. My hormones are absolutely crazy. Everything that my body should have learned when I was 15, it's having to learn now at 30, almost.
Well, but that's okay. Well, it is what it is. Like you're gonna go through this. Yeah, it's just part of the deal. You didn't do it then. Now you gotta go through it. It's just kind of one of those things,
But that's what I'm saying is, it's supposed to help. It was supposed to help, but at the end of the day, it helped temporarily. And now everything that my body was supposed to do and learn, it did not have the chance to do.
Have you heard of this thing? Now they're apparently like a lot of women are reporting that the minute they get off the pill, they stop liking their partners.
So I don't know about the whole partner thing. I know that my sense of smell has changed. Like certain colognes of Arthur's, I'm like, I don't like that anymore. Why don't I like that anymore? Mm-hmm. And it's been only in the last year, and I'm like, why does that smell different to me? And even certain smells in my own house, I'm like, what is going on? And it is that your hormones are changing, so like all your senses are changing.
Yeah, and then that's the whole, what's up?
2 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I don't know, man. Like we've done so much shit. But yet, like, if you look at the numbers, younger generation, there are more younger girls. 1 out of 3 girls is reporting that they want to self-delete. You know what I mean? We've liberated the society. This is the most liberal, the most safe our society has ever been. Yet we're the most unhappy. To me, I understand pendulum is not going to swing back. But we need to have these conversations, because if we're going to fix this in our own families, we do need to have these conversations, right? And I don't know what's the proper.
You talking about him shooting blanks? Is that what you're laughing about?
Birth control blanks.
I'm sorry. Oh my God, this guy. I'm sorry.
That's so funny. That's so funny, bro. What did you see that we didn't see? Huh?
Okay. You okay over
I
there?
got him. But all I'm saying is, like, we need to have this conversation because obviously, with the internet, like, with what's that Spider-Man saying? With great power comes great responsibility. Like these people that do have the power, they obviously fucking just kind of skip the responsibility part. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like all these big pharma companies that are producing these pills and then enforcing this idea.
But are they? I think you're saying that we're the least unhappy. I also do think that hormones, for even men, like what's in our foods, that's having to do with it.
Well, see,
because like.
So
but again, for example, like the pills and the hormones and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you're complaining about your face and stuff, but again, your nails spectacular, your hair looks lovely. So there's like pros and cons.
Yeah, but that's not from the birth control. That's not for lack or of.
That's actually, they proved this scientifically. When a female is ovulating, this is the most beautiful she ever is. Her skin is brighter. Her nails are growing better. The hair. Yeah, that's.
What is all of this going on?
You're beautiful.
15 years of popping Skittles. That's what that is. But what was I saying? I fucking completely fucking lost it. Yeah, completely lost it. But it is.
Let's wrap this up. Thank you guys for coming today. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate Felix coming in today and my sister.
I'm actually glad we get to talk about this because there's a little back and forth between Alex and I. There's a life-hate relationship between him, and I love this. You know what I mean?
We love you, Alex. Thank you for coming, and love everybody else in chat. Thank you guys for coming tonight. We'll see.
And
you.
yes, Ozzy, I need to come out there and get my weekly checks because I'm trying to see where I'm at.
I'll see you tomorrow. Vitality.
Oh, yeah. So me and Jay decided, without even asking Miggy, since we're just gonna tell Miggy to come, that now on Saturdays we're gonna start.
Yes.
We're gonna do.
Are we doing it this week?
Yeah, I think
we're doing it this week. What time? We'll make it official now.
We'll check that and be sure because we want to link with the people we're gonna have on Saturday because we're probably gonna do a special thing on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to do a Spanish version of this. We're gonna try to do a Spanish version.
I think honestly we should based on the the hype of the conversation today, I think we should do a certain type of sex education here.
What?
None of us know.
Which one of us gonna dress up as the egg? The other one is the sperm and start swimming.
Who's putting the condom on the banana?
Yeah, who's doing it?
None of us.
Maybe like Eddie with his mouth.
We'll invite you. You can get the fuck No. Wait a minute. I got it. We'll invite you since you got two boys. You need to have this conversation. Get you some practice.
Yeah.
How about that?
There you go.
No, none of us know enough about this to actually give any educated opinions. We don't know shit.
Yeah, we don't know shit.
Nothing. We're just talking out of our ass over here.
Most of the time.
Even if you know, you don't know.
You don't know, yeah.
But yeah, so Saturdays, guys, stay tuned. As far as the time, I think we're planning between 1 to 4, but we don't know exactly what
something
time.
In that pocket.
So which we can have this still.
Yeah,
the 2 hours and have plenty of the nighttime.
Make sure you guys can still watch your boxing and UFC fights.
Yeah, we want to
on Saturday, but at the same time, it's not at the Ash Crack of Dawn, so you guys can tune in and stuff. Yeah, thank you guys for coming again tonight.